Cool. So, we are talking about errors. Okay. So, see, there are generally three types of errors. Okay. So, first error, we call it as syntax error. Okay. Second type of error, we call it as logical error. And third type is called as exceptions. Okay, exception errors or exceptions. Now, if you do not write logic properly, okay, we say logical error. So if I say, okay, if I tell you, okay, I give you, you have 5 mangoes and I give you 2 more mangoes. How many mangoes you have? So it should be 5 plus 2, 7, correct? But you will say 5 minus 2, 3 mangoes. That is called a logical error. You know, you made mistake in the logic, right? So for example, here, okay, if I say, okay, num1 equal to 5, num2 equal to 2, print sum of two numbers, or let's say, you know, we'll use format. So I'll say sum of num1 and num2 is num1 plus num2, right? Now this is what you expect. Okay, so this is what you expect when you say 5 plus 2, you expect 7. Okay, I think I need to pull this up. No, here, right? So sum of 5 and 2 is 7, but let's say by mistake I've made it minus here. I put minus here by mistake. Okay, now what happens, you know, you, okay, and if you you know, 2, 5 and 2 is smaller number, so you think, okay, we know that this 3 is not correct. But had it been some big number, okay, you will trust and say, okay, yeah, 5, sum of 5 and 2 is 3. So you made a logic, you made an error in the logic. The logic is not right. You got everything correct, but your logic is not correct. So you made an error in the logic. So we say this is logical error. Okay. So you you know, made error in writing the logic. So program will work fine. Okay. Program will work fine. Okay. Absolutely no problem. But the output that you will get will not be correct. And these type of errors are very difficult to find. Okay. This type of error is difficult to find because it's logic, right? Now, if it's one line of code, I know where which line has given error. But if I had 100 lines of code and I'm not getting correct output, then I'll have to go and dig into each line and see, okay, is this line giving error? No. Is this line giving error? No. Okay. So you have to dig deeper into each line and then, you know, come up with actual line which has given error and you need to fix it. Okay. And sometimes you may not even realize that your program is giving you error. Okay. Sometimes you know, so it's very difficult to find, it's very difficult to fix also. Okay. So that's what we say with this. Now, syntax error is error that you make with writing the grammar rules. Okay. So for example, okay, we say that, you know, with print, you have to, you know, give bracket, for example. Let's say I missed to give bracket. Okay. Now when I run it, you see syntax error, unmatched this. So it is expecting, that, you know, it is expecting that, you know, that you give bracket open because it's a closing bracket. So bracket open should be there. But there is no way for you, okay, you know, so there's no way for you to run this. Okay, what I'm trying to say is you cannot run such program. Syntax errors, so logical errors are very difficult to find. And at the same time, logical errors are very easy to find. Your program will not run. You cannot run if your program has logical error. Okay, you cannot run it if your program has logical error. So as I said, if your logical error is difficult to find, syntax error is easiest to find. And when you run it, it will give you, okay? So you cannot even run the program, forget about fixing it. And Python is so helpful that it will tell you which line, okay? So if you go here, it says, this is the file name, and this is the line number where the error is. So it'll tell you the file name and the line which has error. Okay, so this file, line number 9, okay? Oh, then it's okay, yes, I missed to give bracket. So that is called syntax error. Okay, you miss in the writing the rules. Okay, whatever is the rule, you have to follow. And when you miss the rule, okay, you don't get what you expect. Right? So we say syntax error. And as you run it, your program will not run. So you have to you have to run it basically, and you will see where the error is. Okay, so that's your syntax error. Okay, rule not correctly written, right? So okay, you learn, right? This is how it should be, and then you don't do it. Now, exception, and this is the topic that we need to do. See, syntax error, it's easy to fix. You run it, you go and fix it. Logical error, you have to be logical, right? There's no way, I mean, nobody can teach you the error, right? If you are qualified enough to do right the program, you should be able to do it, isn't it? But these are exceptions. We call them as runtime errors. So these are like errors, just like your syntax error, but these errors you won't get when you run the program, because these errors are situation specific. These errors are situation. Okay, in some situation you will get it, in some situation you won't get it. So for example, okay, what we say is, okay, let's take num1, we say num1 equal to, okay, input, enter a number. Okay, enter a number, right? Now, since it's a number, then what do? We convert this into integer, isn't it? Okay, you convert this into integer. So you say here int, right? And you say print value entered is, right? And you say num1. Okay, so now when I run it, it says enter a number, I say 100. Okay, so your program works fine, right? Absolutely no problem. Now when I run this again, okay, enter a number. Now you cannot hold me, right? You can't hold my hand. You can't hold your customer's hand, okay? To say that no, you have to enter number only, right? I can enter whatever, right? I can enter 5 T Y P Q whatever, right? You can't hold my hand. So what happens in this case when I run it? You get value error, not a syntax error, value error. This is called runtime error or exception. Exceptions are your runtime errors, okay? Now, this error you get only if, okay, so when you say integer of, int of, you expect integer value. You expect a number, right? Only number you can convert into integer format. But you expect integer, but you don't get integer. Instead, you get something else. Okay, you get alphabet or something else. This is called as runtime error. Okay, so you know that, right? That sometimes, okay, this error will occur. Okay, sometimes this error may not occur. When it doesn't occur, it's well and good. But if it occurs, your program stops. And as a user, you don't even know what happened. Right? You don't even know what happened. Right? So we have to, when you are doing this exception handling, okay, the handling, handling runtime errors are called exception handling. Now we need to handle, as a good programmer, you need to handle such errors. Now, how do you handle such errors? Right? So to handle such errors, first you need to predict, you need to know which line, okay, can give error. First, you need to predict which line can give you error. Once you know which line gives you error, okay, then we need to handle it. Okay, so see, this is where your value is converted to an integer. So if you have to handle it, this is where you'll be handling it. You can't handle it here or here somewhere. This is the line where you need to handle it. So how do we handle it? Okay, so we have few keywords that you have to remember. Okay, so keywords are called, first keyword is called try. Okay, the line which you think can give you error should be inside try. Okay, so I said to handle exception, first you need to know which line can give you exception. Okay, that is must. So when you work with each line of code, you should be thinking parallelly. Will this line give me error? Will this line give me exception error? Right? Will this line give me exception error? Is there a way to get exception error? Exception error. Okay, again, I'll show you in the on the web. You can see what are different exception error. But so one of the most common error is, of course, value error. When you are trying to convert one format to another and it's not convertible. You're converting text to number. You're converting, let's say, any text to Boolean. Any text which is not true and false to Boolean, right? So you get that error. Okay. So I'm saying the num. Okay. So what happens? Okay. This try block is a special block. Okay. When you why this error? I don't know. Enter the number. Okay. Okay. Now you see, so try is a special block which knows how to handle the error. Okay. So once you put the try block, then you do the catching. Try is to generate the error, and then we need to catch the error. Except, okay, which exception do you want to handle? So, okay, here I know that I can get value error. So I will say, okay, except value error. Except value error. So now in case you get a value error, then it will come to this line. So you can say, you can give a customized message. Since you have entered let it go. Since you have entered an invalid number, we are stopping here. Okay. So what you are doing, you are now as a user, okay, if I enter something, okay, so see, what happened? Oh, no, not here, okay, my mistake. We are handling here, right? Not here. So here we should give correct value here. Okay, now here, okay, if I give S or D or whatever, see, you don't get an error. So you don't get an error. Instead, it says, okay, since you have entered an invalid number, we are stopping here. So as a user, okay, so as a user, you know that you have, because of what you entered, your program is getting ended, right? So as a user, you know what exactly happened, isn't it? So try is a block where you need to give, the line that can throw exception, and then accept the exception name, that exception which is generally thrown. Then you know whatever you want to do here, right? And then what happens? Then the next keyword is called else. Else means if there is no error. So I can say print this is a valid number. Else will be executed if there is no exception. If there is no exception, only then else part will be there. Okay, so the line that you expect the error to happen will be in try. Then you have to catch the exception. Else is if there is no exception, then what to do? No exception means you can say this is a valid number. Okay, and then you have one more keyword that you have to remember, that is called as finally. Finally part is executed, okay, in both the cases, error or no error. Now, finally part is not compulsory depot. In fact, even else is also not compulsory. Okay, you can have just try and accept. Okay, but you can have else where you want to do, you can, if you want to do something, if the exception is not run, then whatever you want to do, you can do it in else part. Okay, finally, again, it's not compulsory block. Okay, but if you want, you can use it. And here, whether there is error or no error, finally will be called. Okay, whether there is error or no error, finally will be called. So if I say here, okay, thank you for using my application, let's say. Now, when you run it, enter a number. Okay, this is the first one, right? Enter a number. I say valid 3. So it says this is a valid number, right? Because we gave it in the else. And thank you for using my application. Okay, this got printed here. Now let's run it again. Okay, enter a number. Okay, this one we have to enter valid number. Here I'll enter ERT or something, invalid number. You see, since you've entered invalid number, we are stopping here. Thank you for using. Now, thank you for using application. We saw in both the condition, right? Both the situation, whether you are getting an error, exception error, or not getting exception error, both the cases you have thank you for using application, the finally part. So depending upon your business objective, depending upon your logic, you'll be using only try except or else or finally. Okay. Now, what I'll do here, okay, I'm going to write a program, okay, to add 2 numbers, okay, and then we will see how to handle the exception. So I'm going to copy this part. And let's try to do it in different ways possible, right? Different ways possible. So this is a valid number, right? Okay, so this is good. Now here I will enter another number, num2. Okay, so instead of adding two numbers, let's try to see that. Write a program to print or write a program to divide two numbers. Okay, we'll write a program to divide, let's say, two numbers. So you have enter a number, okay? And now what do? You divide. Okay, so I will say div equal to num1 divided by num2. Okay, so so since we have entered invalid number, we are stopping here. Okay, else we will print it. Okay, so we'll say division value is div. Okay, so let's run this. I say 10 and 5, you get 2.0, right? Makes sense, right? Okay. Now, if we I run it again, and this time I say 10, but here I enter invalid number. So say it says invalid number and we are stopping here, right? Makes sense. Right? We are stopping here. Okay, whether you enter invalid for 2 or 1, okay, you get this here. Now let's run it again. And this time I'm going to say 10, which is valid number. And now I'm saying 0, which is again a valid number, right? Now what happened? You get a zero division error. Now, since we have not handled this, okay, this exception is thrown. Exception which you have handled it is fine. Okay, we have handled it. Invalid number. But division of 0 is not allowed, isn't it? Right? So what do? We have to add one more except. Okay, and this is zero division error. The command that you see before colon, that is the exception name. So first you have to, if you don't know the name, let's say you forgot, like, oh, it's zero division error or division by zero error or zero div error, whatever, right? So best thing is purposely you make that error, you see the exception, then you can copy and paste it here, and you can say, since you have entered 0 as denominator, division is not allowed. Okay, division is not allowed. Now here I enter 9, which is fine. I enter 0, which is fine for the number, but not for division. Okay, so this is how you can handle multiple exceptions. Now you see, okay, first of all, okay, when you have multiple exception, it first checks, just like if else, okay, it will first check the first first exception. Okay, if the first exception is invalid, okay, it's not matching, then it checks for second exception. If this is not matching, then it will go to else. Otherwise, if it matches, it will perform this and then go to finally. Okay. Now, let's say, okay, we want to handle this by making user, okay, give correct value. Okay, so this is the way you stop execution. But I want to work on it, okay, so that I force user to enter correct value, okay, until it's, what do you say, it's valid, okay, until it's valid, okay. So what I can do is, okay, for the try block, okay, now you see, we're talking about num1, correct? Now, if num1 is valid, only then you take value for num2. Now, if num2 is invalid, then we only want value for num2, right? So in this case, okay, the case which I'm talking about where you're forcing the user to enter correct value, only then you will proceed. Otherwise, you keep asking, enter correct value, enter correct value. So we need to handle these three correctly and separately. Okay, so let me handle this first, num1, right? So here what I'll do, okay, okay, so now let's say you are entering num1 and I will put this in a infinite while, let's say. Okay, infinite while is you say while true. Now this is one way of doing it, okay. Now you can find a better way, of course you should, okay, you should, be able to find a better way as well. So I'm putting this try block in a while, okay, and I'm asking the user to enter the value, okay. So num1 is correct. Now, if there is an exception, here you will only get, okay, value error, right? Okay, so here I'll say invalid number, try again. Okay, and that's it. Since it's a while true, right? It goes here, prints this, comes here, goes up if you give invalid. But if you give correct value, okay, if you give correct value, then what happens? Okay, it will go to else. And in else, I will simply say break. Since you have given a correct value, I don't have to ask you again. So that loop should break. Isn't it? The loop should break and loop will break now. Okay. Same thing I can do for second number as well. So what I'm doing, I'm forcing the user to enter correct set of values until you get it right. Now this num1 and num2, they are inside the block, right? So the best way is, okay, you else enter first number here, enter second number here. Now, since num2 is inside this block, okay, it's better that you declare it beforehand. Num1 comma num2 equal to 0 comma 0, okay, so that, okay, the problem of this value being inside a block doesn't come. It becomes a global variable. We spoke about global variable, isn't it? So this becomes a global variable, okay. So value is changed here and that value will remain even after a while. Okay, so num1 enter first num2 enter second num. Okay, so now, okay, because of while true, till you give correct answer, correct valid variable, your program will keep on running. Okay, and then you need to perform division, right? Now see, division can also give you error. Can also give you error. Okay, so, okay, one option is, okay, I create while true here, right? and I'll say here div equal to num by 2, correct? Div 2 equal to num by 2. This will give error. So I will say, okay, now what I can do is, okay, instead of break here, instead of else break here, okay, I can put this entire thing inside else. Because see, you get a value, but value has to be more than 0. Value has to be non-zero. Okay, it can be less than 0 also. It can be -1 also. But it cannot be 0, right? So instead of breaking the loop, that means, okay, you are done with the value. I will not break the loop. Instead, okay, we'll put all of these inside this. Okay, and here I will say 0 division error. Okay, so you are handling value error here and 0 division error. So here I can say denominator can't be 0. Try again. And then you break it, and then you can simply print the div value here, right? Okay. Because line number 27 will only be executed, okay, when you have all this exception being handled correctly, right? Now, when I run this program, enter first num, say I say R, see, invalid number, okay, invalid number, okay. When I enter valid number 5, now it goes to second number. Second number again, you know, I can give something invalid number. Try again. I have to give some value here, correct value here, 8. Now let me enter 0 here first. Now when I enter 0, okay, what happened? It came to 0 division error, right? Okay, and what happened? Okay, since we have a true here, while true, it goes to this loop, and this becomes an infinite loop. So I need to stop this loop. I don't need to have this loop here. Okay, instead, this break will work for the main true while. Now when I run it, okay, first number, let's make it valid. Now here when I enter some invalid number, it says invalid. Now when I enter 0, it says 0, the denominator cannot be 0, break, right? Okay, now this break will not happen. So it went back to where? Beginning of the loop. So you came all the way here, it went back to the beginning of the loop, enter the second number, right? Okay, you enter invalid number, enter 0, it again comes back here. Okay, now when I enter, valid number, non-zero valid number, you say division is 2.5. Right? So what did we just do? Okay, we are writing a while true, and that while true, the infinite loop is breaking in the else part of it when value is correct. Now you see here, there is no exception for value equal to 0. So to call exception, I had to call 0 division error, right? There's something called as assertion. You can create your own exception. You can create your own exception where you can force, okay, exception on any condition. I can force exception when number is 0. I can do that. Okay, so we'll stop here today. Tomorrow we'll take the same program, exact same program, and we will see how to apply assertion. Okay, how to create our own user-defined exception. User-defined error we will create where this will throw exception for number equal to 0. Right? Okay, so meanwhile you practice this, okay, and tomorrow we'll see how to throw our own exception.